That good?
All right, so welcome everybody, welcome back. So everyone should have an agenda. We'll try to work through all that we worked late into the night getting everything ready and early in the morning. So thank you to Sherry for all her help. And again, we do broadcast by Zoom. So for our members of you, so we got folks listening in and all that good stuff. It does not include caucus or any sidebar. We'll pause for those things. So today the topics are, we have a lot of counters for you today based on things we brought last time, some questions, and we will cover our compensation proposal today the best we can. And then we'll kind of get into closing topics and all that stuff later. So bear with me as we work through the paperwork.
All right.
And I think you guys have your sign-in sheet going around.
We do.
We'll make sure we get that at the end. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass these packets. This time we did print them front and back, so we'll just go through them as we can. Okay. So they are stacked, so you can just take a stack, pass it on.
Got it.
You don't have to separate them. Sherry already collated them for
Awesome.
you and hole punch.
She's so good.
I know.
Right.
We need
Pass it
extras
both ways. So
We need extras. Just let me know.
Why don't you do that and I'll count them out on this side.
oh, okay. You sure?
I'll just on this
Oh, that's fine. You just
Yeah.
split them up.
And these incorporate stuff from last time. Some of our stuff that maybe I tabbed a bunch of stuff that maybe we'll come back to that you guys maybe weren't ready to agree to at that time. It also incorporates your initial proposals. There are a couple new things based on, I don't know if you recall our first session, we'd asked some questions for clarifications on things. So you'll see those when they come up and I'll try to flag those for you. There's a lot in here, but I've also kind of marked in the notes the things that have already been TA'd. And then you'll probably see throughout there'll be like maybe a big blue slash mark. That just means that that one's done, right? We're just withdrawing it. So sorry, not that it's being removed from the contract. Got it. All right, everybody got their templates? Almost. Hold on. Okay. Good, man. All right, so first we'll start with coming back to Article 3. This is drug and alcohol-free workplace and substance abuse. I know we had proposed some pretty robust changes there and it was just a flat no, but we wanted to revisit some of the things that we thought were most important and we'll see. And then I'll walk through that. So in 3.2.2, the proposal here was for all administrators to have that minimum 1 hour training annually. And I think part of that is that, our folks in pre-planning, they go through a lot of training, annual training. So we felt that that was important to make sure everybody's trained on that. 3.2.3 is that the executive officer of professional standards may require an employee to submit to drug and alcohol testing under any of the following circumstances. And we reduced this down to the language that's already there, where reasonable suspicion of the use or impairment by illegal substances and or alcohol exists, and the following procedures shall be followed. Actually, that little part would be changed, but B would be at any time within a maximum of 36 calendar months after employee has been counseled or otherwise disciplined because of a problem with alcohol or illegal drugs, has tested positive for the presence of alcohol or illegal drugs, or has completed initial rehabilitation for a problem with alcohol or illegal drugs. So this is to kind of talk about if there's suspicion, we got to test someone. But we also know that testing and random testing continues on some of our employees who have already determined there was an issue and they're good, they're back at work. And what we have found through labor management and meeting with the Office of Professional Standards, and we previously raised this concern that what's happening now is we've got folks that go through all this and then they're indefinitely on random drug testing the rest of their career. And so that's where limiting it here to that 36 months. Because when we did our research, the Florida Department of Education doesn't even do that. So if there's an issue with a teacher who's helped, the professional practices holds our teachers to a very high standard when it comes to investigating, misconduct. And some of that includes drug and alcohol abuse or issues there. And the Department of Education doesn't even put that rigorous of a standard on teachers for indefinite random drug testing. So that's the purpose of B, is to say, we understand it's got to happen, but can we put that 36-month limit there? And then beyond that, you're starting fresh. And I think just some of my initial research on this, that the courts don't look well on these kind of very overly broad, indefinite random testing, especially on an individual. It's not unusual for an employer to have random drug testing for all employees, especially in very safety sensitive situations, you know, bus drivers, folks that are using heavy equipment. So that's just kind of our rationale there, that we hope that you'll look at that and consider that piece.
Okay.
3.2.4, just a simple change from the employer to the school board. On the next page, I think you'll have to split, yeah.
Mhm.
3.2.5, this language here, the administrator shall promptly detail in writing the circumstances which form the basis of the determination that reasonable suspicion existed to warrant the testing and shall provide it to the employee. And we put a little note here that, you know, at minimum, circumstances that kind of initiate these situations should follow our language there about complaints, 11.4.1. The employee should know, right, where this is coming from and have a summary of that. And we're willing to kind of look at this language, but this, I just wanted to be clear in our intent. What we're getting here is that the employee has some kind of documentation on why this happened. And they may be already getting that, and maybe it's not the administrator, maybe you can clarify it's, you know, OPS, something there. 3.2.7, this is employees shall, shall be provided a copy of testing results no later than 5 days after the close of the investigation. Again, I think it's reasonable for the employee to get that if it's going to be part of a public record, it's part of their file, that they should be provided that at some point. Again, we're willing to massage, you know, it's 5 days, 10 days, whatever, but can they get those testing results? And then you go down a little bit into 3.2.10. Employees shall be provided with a list of the over-counter.
Did you skip 3.2.8?
Oh, yes. So
Okay.
I was going to come back to this because it
Okay,
kind of
got
relates to 3.2.11. But yes, 3.2.8 is just incorporating audio recordings. This is a newly implemented practice that was disclosed to HCTA this past year in March. It's a direct impact to terms and conditions of employment, and therefore it must be bargained. It's a mandatory subject of bargaining. While the employer can do things, right? Management has rights to impose things to operate their, you know, organization, but when they impact wages, hours, terms and conditions of employment, so audio recordings, video recordings newly implemented in a vehicle that haven't previously been there, it's got to be bargained. So that's why we're bringing it back. And again, this is just kind of the first take at that, and we'll get into some of the more of the language in 3.2.11. Okay. 3.2.10, again, we pulled this from HSCF because those folks have language that the employees are provided a list of over-the-counter and prescription medication, which may produce a positive result on the on these tests that are being done. And no employee shall be considered to have a positive test or relief from duty for taking medication as prescribed by their physician. So if this is something that, I mean, I think we're doing this already for folks. If they've got something and they disclose it, that's all very nice. So that was something from HSCF that we would like to mirror. And now we get into all of the audio video recordings. This is all the same language from before. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily know that I need to read through it all, but it comes from, again, that place of, this is new, placing audio video recording into an investigator's car. This came out, we found out about this through that discussion in March when we were asking, basically it came from a place of, I think all of our investigators are male, and we kind of made a request, hey, if we have a female employee that doesn't maybe feel comfortable, can they get a colleague, or is there an option for them to have a female escort? And the response was, well, we can't do that because it's a burden, right? It's maybe hard to find a female that can come and do that. So the answer was, we're going to install cameras in cars. Well, now this is new, right? This is an impact. And we asked a series of questions, and I have a couple of copies of the correspondence if you guys want that, where we had asked a series of questions. If you want more, I can get you more.
Is this one copy?
Yeah, they're stapled.
No, I mean, is this 3 copies of the same thing?
Yes, I
Okay.
have more if you want more for
Okay.
the team, but
Oh,
they're
okay.
there. But basically, you know, after that discussion, which is this, yeah,
Pass this down to Kelly.
I think Kelly may have actually been in that meeting. I was back in March of 2025. So during the summary of that meeting, you know, that's in there, and this document summarizes our
yeah.
notes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Here we have the copies, might as well, so people know what's going on. Oh, sorry, need some more. I'm a really bad
Sure.
materials manager. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, there's one. I guess.
So I just want to kind of lay the groundwork a little bit more on why we really believe that this should be negotiated some kind of terms. And again, this is a starting point. We just like you guys bring language and we look at it and negotiate. That's what we're hoping to do here is negotiate that. So the document you got is the attached pages are kind of the summary. Usually, those of you that work with me know that after meeting, I will typically summarize that meeting. So everybody's got kind of what did we talk about. And this came up, right? And so then we sent some questions to Dr. Patton asking specifically, you know, do they record audio? Yes, because we didn't know that at the time. Will these be subject to public records? And if not, what exemption? And yes, they would be subject to public record because they'd be part of an investigation report. And could they be used against an employee in a disciplinary situation? And the answer was yes, it may be used. So these were all the things again that triggered this to be a mandatory subject of bargaining. So again, to save time, it's the same language from before.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
just ask that you all review that. All right. We're now on page 15 for reclassification.
14? Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, that's
I'm with
all.
you.
That's all connected, yeah. And sorry, it's
No, I'm
usually
good.
single pages. So we had a discussion on this last time. We had asked for some clarification and open discussion about reclassification of some job descriptions. And we have a few that we're wanting to look at. And what was understood is that, that we're open to looking at that. And I know there's kind of a process here. So we just wanted to know if it's possible, can we set a time to review these with the district? Sure. Maybe at the end, we could, when we sit down, look at our calendars, maybe we could revisit it there, but that's the goal is to kind of look at some of these. I think some of them have been maybe sporadically brought up when you were in the position. And,
Right.
and I know we actually just got an email recently. There's some other job description changes, so it might be worthy of bringing a group together to look at those.
Okay.
That's just a placeholder that I will add to my agenda wherever I put it. All right, now we are on page 16. Which is Article 5. We had proposed some language about, you know, accepting documentation and all this stuff. So, and what we heard was that it would be very difficult to kind of understand all the different requirements in other places. So what we did is we kind of rolled this back. I've got some paper here to go with it. So just one sheet. Oh, there's a yellow sheet on the back. It's just the divider. So everybody gets one. Much better than well, it was one page. Come on.
And
But
put
good.
expectations.
Good job. So we're gonna look at 5.1.2. And this has to do with the parapro or the praxis. Is that what it's called too? Praxis.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
the language already says once an ESP has tested or is certified for a classification, they shall continue indefinitely to be certified. What we're proposing here is that, or in the case of a parapro assessment, has the documented equivalent documentation from another public school district that meets established requirements for Hillsborough County Public Schools. So the document we passed was just kind of showing state requirements, different states, other counties in Florida. Regina was able to find out that the minimum score for Hillsborough is 457. And there's only one county on this list, Martin County, that had a score, their minimum score was 440. All the others are at or above that. So we wanted to just at least highlight.
What was ours again, Regina?
457.
Thank you.
Yeah. So not saying that someone couldn't come from Martin County
Right.
with that, but just knowing that they would have to be at that 457. But we did want to show that there is documentation of standards across the country, although Hillsborough wasn't on this particular list that we pulled, but we did find out.
Now, the praxis or the parapro test,
Mhm.
and you know more about this than I do. I'm going to put that out there. So is that the same test that everybody's taking?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
that makes sense. Like, I understand that one. When we
Sure.
looked at it broadly, I
Yeah.
thought it was for the
Understood.
clerical
Yep.
and for this and for that. But
Yep.
okay, so you are specifically
That's-
asking for
yeah.
the parapro
And that's why we
assessment.
said, or in the case of the parapro assessment, it has the documented equivalent documentation. We could, that's probably some fumbly words, but from another public school district that meets the established requirements of Hillsborough County Public Schools.
Okay,
So
and
we're
this
not-
is a great document. Where,
Yeah.
what was the source?
The actual Praxis Therapist website.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're not saying that we should lower our standards to meet, you know, the lowest common denominator on this document. It was just to show that, you know, we're trying to focus on things that we can document. So we would still, you know, fine with the 457. But the good news is that most everybody else is at that or higher
It's funny
anyway.
how 457 is a common
Yeah,
number.
just for that
So-
one little Martin County, I
Yeah.
don't know. What. And I would suspect that most people do well there.
Right.
That's just their minimum. So
Okay.
that's our only proposal there, is to kind of revisit that. And again, that blue stripe there is just that we're withdrawing that down there on 5.1.6.
Got it.
Not that we're saying take that out, just I put a little note there. You all had said no to that, so we're withdrawing.
Got it.
All right, on 17, page 17, we already have a TA on 5.110. So this is just highlighting or bring to your attention 6.1.4. This would be tied to compensation. We would update for the 25-26 school year, the highly qualified eligible ESP as defined by state and federal statute, to provide instructional support in Renaissance schools, which is defined there, shall be paid a salary differential of minimum of 5%. So I know we can probably have a more robust discussion about Renaissance. I know we'll probably talk about this with the instructional, but our proposal here is to continue that.
And you did not have this in your initial language when you first passed it,
No,
correct?
because we had,
Okay.
remember, we had an HCTA, we had a note to hold on salary and everything, because we knew
Yep.
this was related to money.
Sure,
So
okay.
it's just.
No, that's perfect. I
yeah.
just want to make sure.
All right, Article 7 on page 20. Sorry, I'm flipping. So we had a discussion last time, we had asked for some clarification on the process for temporary assignments. And so we've come back with some language here based on what we heard. And all this is to say, and maybe I misunderstood, but what we want to do here is that the temporary assignment of an employee kind of filling in for someone who's on extended leave, or it says here, positions vacate as a result of an extended leave and shall not exceed the length of leave. When unusual circumstances inhibit the filling of an extended leave vacancy, the circumstances will be reported to HR. Temporary appointments may also be made to cover peak workload or other extenuating circumstances, such as, and we kind of wanted to define that, be a little more clear, such as positions that have been vacant for more than 10 consecutive days, work days. So we wanted to be clear that what we talked about last time is there are positions that are vacant for a long time. It's not because someone's on leave, but our folks are helping cover that. And we just want to make sure that they are also eligible for, if, like Regina was given an example of, if I'm a secretary and I'm doing DP work for a vacancy, not because someone is absent, but that I'm also treated in the same way. We didn't really want to change all the rest of the language, but that was our goal there. So our main goal is to ensure coverage for vacancies, and that if they're doing that work, they're filling in, concurrently, that they're getting the higher pay grade, like an employee would if someone was on extended leave.
And we have language.
I think, and this is the thing, I think that it includes that, but we just wanted to be clear and the reason I think it includes is because when you get down to the last section in 7.1.1 with the recommendation language there, it says that a permanent employee may be appointed to a higher classification in a permanent vacancy.
Mhm.
So I think that may be other extenuating circumstances in that first paragraph. Our proposal there, just adding that sentence, was to be clear that it is for an extended vacancy.
Okay, so just so everyone, we know our current practice. So let's say you have a vacant data processor and you have a secretary one
Mhm.
that is temporarily filling in this role.
Yep.
The school can transact this employee into this position temporarily,
Yep.
and they would get the higher pay,
That's what we
Okay.
want, which is, if
okay?
that's currently happening, then I think.
That's
we're good.
currently in the
Okay.
language.
It just, I think, again, it just didn't seem see clear with the other extenuating circumstances. It didn't seem clear in that opening language about temporary appointments.
Okay. Now, the 10 consecutive work days, I mean, if
It
you have
could
a
be-
vacancy, you can do it.
Right.
You don't have to wait 10, like,
Okay.
as soon as there's a
Okay.
vacancy, you could transact this person into here.
Okay.
Now, it creates where this position is now temporary, because when this person either comes back from leave, or if this person filling in is not the person you hire, they then have to go back to their
Right.
position, right?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'm a little confused on,
And the 10 consecutive workdays, again, we were just trying to say like, because from our understanding, and I think maybe I've had discussions with Regina, like if it is the case that a truly vacant position, not filling in for someone on leave, that person is eligible to get that pay, then we just need to be enforcing that if we find situations where it's not happening.
right,
But we
Okay.
weren't sure because the language just says other extenuating circumstances. It doesn't clearly say a true vacancy. It just says filling an extended leave
Okay,
vacancy.
so
So
clarifying it.
we just thought, is there
Well,
a way to
and
open
there's-
the door here? Is it 10 days? No
Well,
days would be great.
And
because we
as
know
a
that we
principal,
have the
there's
right of
two
way.
avenues here, right?
Mhm.
So you either have the option of putting that person in this position temporarily and they
Mhm.
get that higher pay. And then you have a vacancy here, right?
Yep.
Or this person stays in this position, but is working, you can request for them to do overtime because of a vacancy. Now there's a request, you have to request that from finance, but that one, if they're working beyond their hours, because, hey, I'm gonna do some DP work after hours, and that's creating where I'm working
Yes.
10 hours a day, then, so they are two different
Right, that's the
options that a principal has. Okay.
and that's that concurrent language which we
Yeah.
TA'd last time.
But if you're here and you're filling in here, then you're not working overtime, you're just working an 8-hour day, but doing this job, and you're not doing this job theoretically.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And that's
Okay.
why in this part, we also then in that, so then if we're going on looking at the language, filling vacancies created as a result of an extended leave or other circumstances listed above, again, we just wanted to be clear that it's not just for a health leave.
Got it.
And then in the next piece, a permanent employee serving this temporary assignment or serving to fulfill the duties concurrently with their regular position, which we could reference 7.5.1. So that we just wanted to bring some clarity there because I think there was some misunderstanding that like, oh, you only get it if you're on if someone's on a health leave.
Yeah.
Again, when you got to that last paragraph, I think that's where it kind of ties up the intent of this language where it talks about a permanent, you could potentially move into that position. Like, let's say I've been there all year and I continue to do it. The language actually allows for that ESP to qualify for the position if they're not quite there, but then they got that 12 months to get it done. And then if they don't, then they got to go back. So we don't want to change any of that. We just want clarity.
Well, and speaking from the lens of employee relations, which Kelly's gonna get these calls, what I actually think the current we haven't even talked, but it's not that the current language is not accurate. It's that
Yes.
we have not done a great job of training our site leaders to know that these are their two options.
Right.
That's my thought, that I know those are the two options, but does every principal? And we get calls like, what can I do? So I think it's really clarifying, these are
Right.
your options when you have a vacancy in one of your support positions.
Right.
So,
And,
okay.
and that's all we're trying to do here is, maybe to the language, providing that clarification.
Mhm.
And again, open to, making that language say exactly what we mean.
Yep.
Which is always the challenge in bargaining.
Yep.
So, thanks for bearing with me getting through all that.
All right, no, that's good.
All right, then the next page, 21, 7.3, we had requested some clarification about subs. And our proposals here, just to make it clear that a school-based clerical employee is absent, a substitute shall be provided. It's just to, make it the case that if clerical absence employee, and clerical employee is absent, there will be a sub until the regular employee returns. And then schools with 2 or fewer clerical professionals shall employ a substitute immediately. When an absence occurs, offices having clerical staff of 1 full-time or 1 half-time can allow for the half-time to work full-time. So our goal here is just to get subs. I think, with vacancies and everything, I think the burden is there even more and people are feeling it, and that's why we're hearing it. And so that's our goal here. And then same with 7.3.1, substitute paraprofessionals shall be provided when the paraprofessional is absent, early childhood or ESE programs, provided federal funds are available. And then clerical and professional staff shall not be responsible for securing their subs. Because it's already saying paraprofessional, so we just want to include clerical. Okay. And then we already have a TA on 7.5.1. All right. Page 22, Article 8, experience credit. On 8.1.1, we had proposed some language to try to get nurses in there, and you came with some language separating them out. So I'm gonna try to walk through this. On 8.1.1, you had proposed including the word work there, all work-related experience, and then limiting it to 7 years. So I put a note here that we want to keep the language as we agreed to it. We just agreed to this back in October of 2023, and this language was implemented. So we don't want to regress or go backwards on saying, okay, well, now we only want to limit it to 7 years. We did put that time certain of it was going to start July 1, 2023. So we're okay with adding work related, but we do not want to limit experience to that maximum of 7 years. And then in 8.2.1, we understood that this kind of went back to like experience from other public school districts or paraprofessionals. How do you compare the positions? But we did want to include Hillsborough County Public School teaching and paraprofessional experience. So if we know this happens sometimes, we've got someone who's taught in HCPS for a number of years, and then they come back as a para, that they can get their teaching experience credit for the para position.
Was this what we, wait, I think we TA'd that.
Did we?
Well, I think that's what we proposed. You had put the original, we had struck the experience from other public school districts,
Yes.
but we had
Oh, okay.
agreed to the teaching and paraprofessional. Yeah. Yeah, double check. Maybe because it was half and half, maybe you had said that you wanted to hold. I'm not sure.
I think we did want to hold because
Yeah.
we were trying to figure out about that parapro.
Yeah, I
Got
know,
That's-
I think we proposed it, you came with a counter and we said we come back to it. So,
Got it, okay.
We withdrew the one above and we are withdrawing that one a little bit below there, but you had come, because you said, hey, let's wait, we've got our
Right.
counter, and so this is kind of a,
This was our counter though, right? I
probably have
think,
it somewhere.
okay. I think this is what our counter was. But no, if that's what you want.
No, I think,
Double check, I could be wrong.
no, your proposal was for 8.1.1, you included the work, but you added up to a maximum of 7 years.
Correct.
And then you broke out and had nurses. Nurses
Mhm.
shall be given salary credit for all related work experience as a nurse up to the maximum of 7 years.
Yeah.
So there was nothing in
No,
there.
look at 8.2.1.
Yes, our original proposal was to say experience from other public school districts.
Okay.
And we said, and we had that conversation.
Mhm.
And then we're coming back and saying, can we add teaching in? But maybe we did talk about that at the table, and now I'm just putting it in.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
The goal there. And then, of course, then we were good with breaking out the nurses there, that the nurses shall be given salary credit for all work-related experience as a nurse.
Got it.
We had already agreed to that for the clerical. We believe it's already there for the paraprofessional as best we can if they already have paraprofessional experience. We want to mirror that for the nurses as well.
Just to clarify, paraprofessional experience, they only get their HCPS
Yes.
paraprofessional
Yep.
experience.
Yes,
So
exactly.
this would be giving all work experience from outside HCPS, correct?
For our nurses, yeah. I feel like that's pretty verifiable because I'm sure Ms. Butts can confirm, our nurses having their licenses, if they've got the license elsewhere, it's comparable. So, especially if we're hiring agency nurses and all those folks. we
But
want
if
our
you're trying to
folks
mirror 8.1.1, that is only effective after July 1, 2023.
Right,
And our current proposal was to allow up to 7 years of work experience, but it could be prior to July 1, 2023, just for clarification.
right.
Oh.
Mike?
Yeah.
So everyone, you gotta turn off
Yes.
that.
Nope.
No, I just wanted to ask for clarification. As you mentioned, you said that you guys added the up to a maximum of 7 years because you were willing to go back before 2023. So I think that's something.
Correct.
That we'll
Okay.
look into.
Okay,
Want to hold it.
Okay,
Hold on.
okay.
well, it's a good discussion to try to make sure
Yeah.
are we on the same page
Yeah.
with this, because it can get
Correct.
convoluted.
Yep.
Because I think we've had, in our time together, we've had a lot of conversations about trying to do the best we can to get the maximum experience credit. 'Cause that's gonna attract folks that may come to Hillsborough over Pinellas or Polk or Pasco.
Right.
So that's the goal here, is to get as much experience credit on the books.
Understood. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the up to 7 years experience without
gotcha.
that limiting factor of July 1, 2023 is actually more
Okay.
allowance than 8.1.1 currently is.
Okay. Oh, thank you for that, because I don't think I understood that.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think it was because the July date was still there, so that's why we were coming.
Okay, yeah. That was their proposal last time was, it wasn't, it was just rewritten, so. in
Yeah.
The proposal rather than
Yeah.
striking and showing that change. That's probably why I,
Our proposal, and I don't have it straight in front of me, but nurses shall be given salary credit for all work experience as a nurse up to a maximum of 7 years experience.
Gotcha.
It does not have a date
gotcha.
timeframe,
Okay, all right.
was our
So-
proposal.
Either one of us can come back and
Okay,
re-propose that. How about that?
that sounds good.
All right, on this same page, it gets a little tricky down here with 9. We're withdrawing the 9.1.1, so you know there was a no there. On 9.1.2, the language already says that less than 12-month ESP shall be paid for 6 holidays. We had tried proposing, can we just define what those 6 days are? Board said no, so what we're hoping here is, can we at least include the Labor Day as one of those days? We understand that you didn't wanna, do Labor Day, Veterans Day, fall break, winter break for those 6 days, but can we at least guarantee that Labor Day is one of those 6 days? That's our counter here.
This is gonna sound silly, but why? Is there a reason that that one's more important than others, or?
I will kick it to Regina, because this kind of came, I think, maybe out of the committee.
Okay.
Only because typically around the world on Labor Day, everyone is off. And so we believe that everyone should be off, here in Hillsborough as well.
Yeah.
Would be the only
Okay.
reason.
And I
Fall
think
break, winter
historically,
break.
obviously, we have been off. It's just whether it's a paid day or a
Right.
non-paid day.
Yeah, and I think, of course, we're a labor organization, so
Yeah.
Labor Day is important. And we know the fall and winter break can be variable.
Yep.
And different districts don't have a whole week, or maybe they have different days. So
Okay,
we're hoping we could start with Labor Day.
understood.
And then, there is something else for 9 that we missed putting in there, but I see this little standalone. See if we can consider it and squeeze it in if you all are open or agreeable to it, but it has to do with regular duty hours, this section 9, section 9. I kind of left it as 9.2 question mark, because, and I'll just preface all this while you're passing out papers. Because I've been here, every year we come and we try to propose mirroring everybody on an 8-hour workday, right? And the goal there is to get consistency, get everybody at 8 hours. That's a little bit more pay for our 7.5-hour employees. And then we typically in that change, we then try to make sure if everybody's 8-hour, all the breaks are the same. And you all clarified last time about how the consistency in the language right now is if an employee has a non-paid lunch, then they get their break, right? If they have a paid lunch, they don't get the breaks. So this is to try to continue to open this and work on this about breaks, because we've had some difficult discussions about folks that don't get breaks throughout their day, and how tough that is. So our proposal here is ESP employees shall be provided a paid 15-minute rest period during each 3.5 hours of work. The break would not be at the beginning or end of the workday unless previously agreed to by both parties. And employees may ask their supervisor for flexibility. So what we're trying to do here is those that aren't getting those breaks is give them some breaks. And again, we're open to when this would be or that sort of thing, but.
So this would be for all ESP employees, both para and clerical.
And some of them are already getting it. So
Right,
they're,
right.
it's already covering them, but we really are trying to get to a point. I know we made a little bit of a gain, I believe, last year, the year prior. We're able to get a little bit of a you can talk to your administrator and get a break, but it's problematic. I think it's, whether you have a paid or an unpaid lunch. I mean, we have those kind of assurances in the teacher contract where you can only go so much time without having some kind of your lunch or your planning or something. So
Would this replace, or would this be, all employees would be the same, therefore clerical would now get one 15-minute break? Because currently clerical have 2 15-minute breaks.
yeah, no, I think the goal was that for each 3.5 hour, that it would probably equate to 2, but
Oh, yeah, okay.
But that is the goal. That is the goal. The goal is everybody gets 2 breaks.
Understood. I didn't understand the first time I read it. I'm like,
No, that's okay,
I'm
that's
not
okay.
getting it. All right.
But again, and that's why it's like, we're trying to also, talk about flexibility. We understand the beginning and the end of the day, those are difficult times that coverage is needed. But this is the intent. This is where we're trying to go, is to get those folks that don't have a 15-minute break, that we get something. And we've been making, I think, little bits of gains there where people can work together, but yeah, we get a lot of feedback and
I understand what you're asking for.
thank you for understanding that I didn't quite get it in the language, because what we try to do before is go through each of those and edit them. So we just thought, can we just something that there is blanket application we can. So. All right, now we're on page 24.
26. Wait.
Oh, maybe you're on the flippy flop.
Okay.
Got it. Sorry, page 24. 9.2.11. We had asked for some clarification on this before on a non-student instructional workday. And this has to do, I believe, with ESP employees, mirroring their non-student days and using comp time. And then there's this language about only school-based ESP employees shall be allowed to use comp time, personal time, vacation time, and or paid personal time on these days in order to match the workday. So our proposal is to open it up to anyone. It doesn't have to be, don't just have to be school-based. We already have a TA on 9.2.12 and we're withdrawing 9.3.3. And then now we're on page 26. Got it. TA already at the top there. Forms and procedures. All right. This was when we tagged last time, because I know you all were agreeing to Appendix D, where the evaluation instrument. And then we had tried to propose some language about when the ESPs got their criteria, and we originally had said pre-planning, and we thought, we heard you that that's too restrictive. So we kind of are coming back to see if we could massage this and do something. So rather than just prior to the written assessment, returning ESP employees shall be reminded and provided the criteria and procedure to be used should be during pre-planning and at during pre-planning, but no later than September 15th. So we feel like that's kind of reasonable. That pre-planning, that's kind of time when people are getting a lot of information, but you still got some time there. And then ESP employees shall be informed, newly hired ESP employees shall be informed of the criteria and procedure to use within 30 calendar days of their start date prior to the written assessment. So our notes here, just that, again, employees are already informed of criteria and procedures prior to the written assessment. That's already there in the language. We just want to ensure that consistent time frame and sufficient time for the notification for both returning and new ESP employees. Pre-planning seems to be a reasonable time frame for returning employees, and within 1 month of their start date should be reasonable as well. So that was our goal, rather than saying it's got to be by, not everybody's here on pre-planning. So how do we adjust that? Got it. All right. And then in 12.1, I did want to say, I think you had made a proposal on 10.1.2 that's not in here, and we were just for your notes, because I think I missed that. I skipped ahead to 12. We don't have a counter for that because we did not want to extend, now here in probationary period, we don't want to extend the probationary period. So that's why there was a no to your original proposal of 10.1.2. So now we're on 12.
All right, so let me make sure. So 10 counter here. So let me just go back real quick.
Sorry.
I'm looking at mine real quick. So my 8.1.1,
We have
trying to limit clerical for the maximum of 7 years was a no.
Well, I think now that we've had the clarification on what was meant there, let's talk about that.
Come back.
Yeah,
All right.
so we'll come back to
Nurses
and all.
Okay, so we're coming back to that probationary period, or no, 10.1.2, that one right now.
Yeah,
You're
because
not wanting to.
I think your proposal for 10.1.2 was tied to 12.1 because the proposal was to change the probationary period.
Gotcha.
So I'm just trying to make note that now we're on 12.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, we do not agree to lengthen the probationary period. So that's why it's a no on the 10.1.2, a no on the 12.1.
Okay.
And our only changes here, we already have a number of TAs. It was just in 12.1, and 12.21 was just career observation changing to performance support plans.
Okay.
Which I think we had already done everywhere else, but that's just there.
All right.
And just to kind of give some more discussion on the probationary period, I think we had a discussion, it's 6 now. You still have the ability to extend someone into 12 months. Because if there's a need, if at 6 months we're thinking, this person could make it, then we should be putting supports in place to help them and go for 12 months. If it's 6 months and we're just, well, we think they can do it, but they need a little more time, then what are we doing in that 6 months, right? And I think I had made the comment of, are we just extending it to keep them on a probationary status for another 6 months, or are we actually really supporting them? And we believe that it's there, that you can have someone on 12 months, but we want to make sure those supports are there. And I don't think it diminishes the ability of an administrator to say, hey, at 6 months, there's no shot here. Like, let's move on.
And if you extend just for 30, it doesn't mean you have to go the full 6 months. You can, at 8 months, say,
Right.
yeah,
But that's the point too, is that if we're going to extend it 6 months, let's at least put some things in place there through the plan. To hopefully get them through that 6 months, because if we're doing it for that purpose, then yeah.
Okay.
Because yeah, I mean, to your point, if we say 12 months, same thing, you don't even have to put them on a plan, we could terminate you after 7 or 8 or 9, so.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
understood.
Yes, all right, so now on page 44, we already have a TA for 1771, and we're withdrawing 1773. The only thing we came back here was in 1772, the current language, those two sections are connected, and all we're doing here is just proposing a separation, just making a new 1773. So employees who choose to participate in professional development programs conducted after the workday shall be granted comp time unless a specific stipend is offered for that workshop, just making a standalone. Okay, just for
Do we
clarity.
need to clarify everywhere that says professional development to get professional learning, since the term professional development, you know,
Sure.
the state changed it?
Sure.
And I
okay.
felt like we did that last year with the teacher
I think we did with the ones we caught.
one,
Yeah,
so we
so we
might
might
want to
do it here too.
consider that just for
Okay.
consistency and
Sure.
the terminology
Yeah,
that aligns with the
We're good with that,
statutory things that are happening.
for sure. So that's the only thing there. We weren't trying to change any, just making a separation.
Okay.
All right, so now we've got 1723. This is in response to your,
Yep.
before we go to 17, I do want to go back to 1538. We had proposed some language on transfer. We just asked for a little more time on that. We're still reviewing it.
Okay.
So we don't have a yes or a no or a counter yet, but I just want to let you know that we're still looking at that.
So that's a hold.
Yes. Now on to 1723. Okay. So we understood where you're coming from on this. So we did a little bit of countering to your 1723 about job abandonment. And all right, so you had, if an ESP employee fails report for the regularly assigned duty 3 consecutive days without notifying their immediate supervisor of the reason for the absence, that employee shall be determined to have abandoned their position. What we're proposing is a little addition here that each case will be reviewed with HCTA before termination is determined. It is understood that an exception to this provision shall be made for a documented incapacitation resulting from an illness, accident, we're adding, or other verified documented circumstance which made such notification impossible. And then we also are adding or proposing, and in these cases where they've got the documentation, the ESP employee shall be reinstated to their position. So we agree in concept, but we would like to be able to look at those on a case-by-case basis, because I think we had asked, how much does this happen? I think that'll help us kind of look at how often is this happening, and just allowing that if somebody brings back their documentation, that they're gonna get their position back.
Now, I know it's hard for us because we don't know who are members, who aren't, but would this be for members or for all? Okay.
Because I think it's an important labor management piece, because if we see this as like happening a lot in a particular area or a particular position, or what's going on, are there other things that we can kind of help address?
Well, I think what you'll see, I think what we'll all see is the time of the year that it's happening.
Yep.
A lot of times it's happening at the beginning of the year when, they
Yeah.
finished the year, but they didn't notify
Right.
the employer that they were resigning.
Right. And it may be one of those things too, where it's like, we've got to got a bundle of them, let's sit down and talk about,
Mhm.
just, you know.
Okay.
Because in some of those cases, I know we've worked well with HR on even, you know, helping assist in those situations. Maybe we can get contact made, or, you know, we know something else that, you know something we don't know, or vice versa. And then if we are withdrawing there was a no on funeral leave, so we're withdrawing that. And then we would agree to adding the letter T down there to job abandonment as defined in 17.2.3. So we already have a TA on 13. So, hold on real quick. Okay. Slow. Yeah, it's a lot. All right, so now we're on page. Yeah, now we're on page 48, 17, 15, and 17, 16. So we have your proposal here for the 17-15, which is reducing that maximum from 36 down to 18. We had requested some data on that. And so we want to see that data, and then we'll come back to it. So it's kind of a hold. We just wanted to know, like, in the past 2 years, you know, our request here was information on how many of these have happened where leaves were more than 2 years. Or yeah, more than 2 years, because I think right now the total is 3.5 if they were to extend this.
Correct.
So how many instances in the last 2 years do we have people that have fallen into this for more than 2 years of leave? And I think that would be helpful for us to look at.
Okay.
To formulate a counter. Kind of related to leave is down here on the 17.6.1. We had proposed some language where the parapro could be allowed to or be accommodated to schedule their work during their work towards their para to pro while on the job, and we understood that that was limiting. So what our counter here is, something we're trying to look for is an ESP employee may request a 12-month extension for an educational leave with providing evidence of a plan to complete a bachelor's in education subject area. So right now they can get the 12 months of education leave, not to exceed, and only one.
Mm-hmm.
But our proposal here is if one of our pairs is like on track to get a bachelor's in education, could they request to get that leave extended for an additional 12?
Okay.
So just to allow more time and to do that. Do you think that that's great?
Would your request be that the position that they're in is held for them, or that they would be going to the pool if they do that? With the intent that hopefully that they're going to be looking for a teaching position anyway.
Right. So the way it happens now,
It holds their position for them, and that
Yeah.
school has a temporary
right?
position.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you're hearing where my counter's
right,
gonna be.
right. Our proposal is no. Our proposal would be that it is as it is, and they can get their extension.
Yeah.
So if you have that counter, we
Understood.
will then
Okay,
consider that.
all right,
So yes, our proposal did not.
okay.
All right, now on to 18.2 voluntary activities. All right, we had made a proposal here about kind of including some other things for counts and other community engagement, and we heard that you guys couldn't agree to the whole proposal, but we're open to the community. So we kind of worked on this here. So the ESP employees attend at each school's annual open house and or student parent engagement events. So we just to kind of be a little more broad there, is voluntary. Are the parties recognize the importance of these activities to the school community? And then, you know, we understand comp time is already part of this.
Yeah.
So therefore, ESP employees who attend open house or other student parent engagement activities at the request of their supervisor will be granted comp time for hours worked. So what we understood in the last one was that you were good with the other student parent engagement in the last sentence, so we just put it in the top one. Understood. And then I have 18.5.3 highlighted because I also have this on the agenda. We had the discussion last time. I know there was a no on the micro credentials for NEA, but we have this committee that we remember we have. So what we hope today at the end is when we set our dates is can we convene that committee?
We were focused on the right stuff.
Yeah. So yay, I just have it highlighted because we want to set.
So we don't forget to do it this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think Regina and a lot of our ESPs have been doing micro credentials.
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of great work. They've even through our CTech program with Sabrina, there's a lot of stuff there, and I think it would be really great. Can we start whittling down, like maybe these are the ones we accept, or come back to it? So So it's highlighted to set dates now, rather than.
Got it.
All right. On page 52, withdrawal of 1814. I have highlighted here 1816. No change, just a clarification. So this language says the school board and the association agree that although there is no official dress code for ESPs, they are to be professional in their dress, personal grooming. So we get reports of ESPs being told that they're not dressing professionally. So we kind of want to have a little more understanding of what does that mean, then, especially when they're getting less than effective ratings on their evaluation. So we just want clarification. What does that mean? What does that look like? And our kind of note here is that we know there's no dress code, but can an effective evaluation at minimum be given to those who are modeling student dress code, right? Absent of uniform requirements. So this is just to have some clarification of what is it exactly that will trigger a less than effective rating for professional dress when there is no dress code. When the expectation is professional, what does that look like? So can you help us out?
What does that look like? I mean, I'm asking you, like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I think,
What's that? Right, and that's how do we find kind of some kind of consensus on that? I know when I was hired here, I remember it was Dan Valdez at New Teacher Orientation who said, if I walk on a campus, I should be able to tell the difference between an employee and a student. That was pretty much it. Now that could look different at different sites, which I understand. If I am an ESE classroom with small children when I'm on the floor, I may not be wearing my, suit and tie if I was, in a different classroom. So I think that's what we're
I think this is
asking.
a challenge.
Yeah.
And we can continue to have that conversation. Because I'll share my 17-year-old, he's in dress code when he goes to school, but he surely doesn't look professional. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
In his socks with his Crocs with his,
Okay.
but that's my issue as a mom. But so I don't know what that would look like, especially if we were trying, but we can definitely have that conversation.
Okay.
I do think it varies. Because what I think might be professional, someone else might not.
Right. That's what gets
And that
hard,
is difficult. It is difficult.
especially without a conversation. If I'm just being marked,
Correct.
and Regina's at her
Yeah.
school, and we're like, well, why did you get it and not me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah,
that's
'cause I
a
think-
challenge, but I mean, I'm open to us
Yeah,
having that
because
conversation. I just don't know what we're gonna put in writing.
no,
that
I'm
shows that.
not saying that we should put anything in writing. I think this was just an opportunity to have that discussion.
Okay.
So that we, at minimum. And maybe it should be in labor management, but Regina.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, it is, sometimes it can be, a person's personal preference.
Yeah.
And so, administration can say, you don't look professional to me, but the employee may think that I look fine.
Totally understand. And I'll share just even as a principal with an administrative staff, we were not even always on the same page with what we thought was student dress code versus, it
Yeah.
was such a challenging conversation to have because everybody has different, standards.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, even on this table, Marie and I are very different in what we think is appropriate dress code, right? We know that, like, we've had those conversations that, it's just, I mean, it's difficult, even in a small group, let alone when you're looking at an entire district. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And
We
again,
do agree on yoga pants. not
Yeah.
appropriate. That part we do.
but maybe on field day.
Yeah.
Yeah, athletic wear.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
And if
And
they're
again-
getting really good results, then it's a harder
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just, it's a difficult conversation, right? I mean, it just is. But I'm willing,
Okay.
we're open to it and we
Okay.
understand why, the why.
Okay, so I don't think we don't want to propose any language either.
Right.
Because it gets so like.
Yeah.
As soon as you say you can't,
Yeah.
then there's 500 cases of.
Correct.
But here's where we need to. So
Correct.
I
Correct.
just wanted to try to open that dialogue. So we'll bring it to Kelly and they come on. We'll have a little standing spot on the agenda, continuing old
Yeah.
business.
So
all right.
understood.
Well, thank
I
you.
understand why you're asking and
Yes, thank you.
I don't know the solution to that, but we can have that conversation.
Yeah, okay, all right, so now on to page 54, 20.2.5. All right, there was an original no on this, so we came back to it, about, we wanted to limit, like, if if a student was sent to the office, that would be no more than an hour, but we understood, you know, what the reasoning was behind the no. So a school-based clerical ESP shall not be solely responsible for monitoring students who have been sent to the office for disciplinary reasons. And our counter here, what we're trying to do is get to the point of, and monitoring of these students should not be excessive so that it impedes on the normal daily duties of the school-based clerical ESPs. So we understood that by trying to put a time frame on it, and we heard what you're saying, that no one should be solely, but we also know that if Regina and I are in the front office and we've got someone, hey, can you cover for 15, all, you know, that sort of thing. But if it gets to the point where it's like, we have to be so focused on the student that we're not getting our duties done. So
Understood.
tried to come back to it basically. All right, now on to Article 24.5, Insurance Committee. There was a big vote last night.
There was.
So we've got some proposals
Making a
here.
change.
Yay, it's yeah, I know that was. So let me, I know I kind of bring that up in a joking way, but I think, you know, my experience here and the work in the committee right now meets annually to kind of review things and make recommendations. And then ultimately there's under that fully insured model, it's very much in the board's hand on who do we pick, RFP, are we fully insured, self-insured, all those things. And the committee typically, you know, we as HCTA, you know, there's a lot of language here in this contract and the teacher contract about what we keep in place for employees. But now this is going to change. The committee is going to have more responsibility. So we have some proposals here to kind of beef up our insurance committee because we know we're going to have to be doing more than just once a year now. So we can tweak this, but this is just a starting place. So first here in 24.5.1, we already have language that we talk about the importance of, you know, balancing quality health and other insurance for employees. Towards these end, a joint insurance committee will be established, and we wanted to clarify that this is comprised of representatives from HCTA, HSCF, PASA, retirees, and the school board. You can spell all those out if you're open to including that. Leaving 24.5.2 as is, but the rest of this language now is dealing with the self-funded healthcare program. So the school board will become the administrator for the self-funded healthcare program effective, I believe, January 1, 2026. While this program is in effect, the following duties shall apply to the insurance committee. The district insurance committee will meet monthly to review all relevant information or data that may impact the status and viability of remaining self-funded in future years and make recommendations to the program to ensure financial stability and positive impacts to employees. The insurance committee will regularly review and ensure checks and balances are put into place to determine the financial viability of remaining self-funded. An independent actuarial analysis will be performed annually to ensure financial viability. And then we're on the next page, which shall be provided to the insurance committee. So it's not that the committee is doing that. We're not actuarials, I'm not, but we've got folks that are doing that for us, which they already do, right? I mean, we already see that information.
That's what they do, and then this is the statute.
Yeah.
Will now have
Yeah.
annual attestation to the state confirming that we have.
So this is just kind of shoring all that up and mirroring what we should be doing. So then in the event that self-funding is no longer financially advantageous to the school board and its employees, the district insurance committee will meet to make recommendations regarding continuing self-funded, continuing to self-fund the healthcare program, returning to a fully insured financial arrangement for the healthcare program. Not that the committee would say yes or no, but we would help look at that and make those recommendations in those meetings. And then lastly, the school board will establish an internal service fund not within the unassigned fund balance reserve to protect the funds that are contributed to the self-funded healthcare program by the school board and participating members. The insurance committee will review the tracking of premiums collected and claims provided. So all this language is to try to just establish what we already know we should and will be doing, but just to be very clear that, you know, this is not just same old insurance committee where we meet annually, that there's going to be more, because we know that there's, just in our experience the last few months, just the unknown creates a lot of anxiety and fear. And when we educate folks and we've got that information that, oh, okay, that's why things the way they are. Not that it makes it any better or easier to accept, but at least we understand. So all new. And again, this is a starting place. So we ask that you just review this, the committee's role will amp up.
And we know we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
To make sure that our employees don't get intimidated by self-funding. It's really behind the scenes.
Yes.
They shouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Exactly.
Go to their doctors or to have their coverage.
Right.
Really.
Yeah. And that's why I think encapsulating what the committee does under the self-funded program is to ease that, yeah, we are gonna be looking at this more, because, you know, it's not Regina herself funding it, it's the board as a whole funding it for employees, and the committee has a role in making sure that everything's taken care of, so. That's that. Any questions? I'm sure you guys will look at that and make some helpful improvements for us. I'm looking at Tracy like, she's
Yeah.
gonna,
Like
she's
Tracy,
gonna pen it all.
get your pen, get your pen.
And then 17, then this one, we talked about 17, 15 one. Yeah, that was the gap.
Yeah.
And then 25,
Terminal pay.
the terminal pay, just hold on that. We're still reviewing that. So not a no or a yes, but just
Got it.
hang tight. All right, the next several pages in the packet, it's just updates to MOUs. So, these are just, the proposals here are removing the outdated. So we removed the expired MOUs. And then basically there's all these pages of MOUs and then just including the updated one, which would include the millage referendum implementation in our MOU appendix, as well as the transformation network. To the MOU.
Okay, I got it, sorry.
So if we want, I mean, just for clarity's sake, the TAs on these would not be, not that we're renegotiating the language, but just that we're excluding these and including the others.
Well, and that's been, and really that was something great that you brought, that we need to have those MOUs in the contract. So that's been super helpful.
Yeah.
And obviously if we have an existing MOU, it's good to have it there so people know it exists.
Yeah, so it truly is just, if we TA these, it's just literally removing expired and including. We're not proposing any changes.
Okay.
to them.
Got it.
All right, and then now let's get into, if you want, we can keep going on and just get into compensation. If you wanna just give you the whole shebang.
I'm ready. Everybody else okay? All right.
Okay, so what I'm gonna pass in your packet is the instructional support one-time supplement.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass you an updated one. So page 81,
Get rid of this
get
one.
rid of that one and giving you a new one, because there was a typo. And I did a new one and there's still a typo, so we'll get to it. Sorry. You can keep the second page just
Oh.
because.
That's why I use pencil.
I know. Sorry.
Part page 82, keep 82.
That one stays.
So
there.
yes, get rid of 81, keep 82. Sorry. And bear with me on this.
I
This
did
is a
that
lot of
out
new.
there. I don't know if I passed enough that way.
All right. So before we get into like the whole, you know, the big shebang and the salary schedule, we wanted to look at instructional support one-time payments. Does everybody have the updated one? Okay, we did. We got the 81 and 82. All right,
Yep.
so keeping, we would update the dates, keep chef, culinary, and data processor, highly qualified pair pro. Now, the elementary bookkeeper, I saw them in the salary schedule book and then I said, oh, we need to put those in there. But then I remember that elementary bookkeepers are not our folks. Is that correct? Is that why we don't have that in there? The elementary book-
Well, there is no elementary
Okay,
bookkeepers.
so that's
They,
why.
it's the
All right.
principal's secretary, so they are not
Gotcha,
yours,
okay.
correct?
So then,
And we made
there you go. That's a typo. So get
Yeah.
rid of that. I was going through everything. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we didn't include them. So thank
Got
you
it.
for reminding me of that why. So the new proposal here, though, would be for the bilingual interpretation and translation services for a $750 amount. Now, there's two little stars there, and so we've got some language down here to talk about the eligibility for bilingual interpretation or translation services. So to be eligible for interpretation translation services supplement, an employee must provide proof of degree or certification indicating bilingual capabilities, or a passing score on a district-approved bilingual proficiency assessment, or documentation of bilingual capabilities with verification from a site administrator. Additionally, the employee must be designated by their supervisor or administrator to provide the interpretation and/or translation services beyond the typical scope of their position. So this is something that I think happens both with our instructional and our support, where there's someone on site that's helping with translation and interpretation in a lot of different capacities. So if it's something that you know, this person can do it, and the administrator says, yes, Regina is my great interpreter on lots of different things, that they would be provided a supplement. So we're open to kind of looking at that, but that's our intent, and we hear this from our instructional staff too. You know, I think Chris and I worked with an employee that was a guidance counselor, was sitting in on interviews, of course, beyond the scope of her regular duties as a guidance counselor. So that's the goal here, is that, you know, everybody agrees, it's up to the administrator to say, this is someone who's gonna help us at this site. And then we have a list of certification, registration, and license renewal supplements. So I'll try to walk through these, and kind of give you a cost, I think, that they may be. So for a certified occupational therapist assistants, this would be a specific job code 50834. Their license renewal to the Department of Health for $60 every 2 years. There are only 3 of these people, so that would be $180 to the district. Now, maybe that would be 2 of them 1 year and 1 the next year, but there's only 3 of those folks right now. Number 2, the physical therapy assistant license, that is our 50824 job code. There are only 5 of these people, so the 135 every 2 years would be $675. Licensed practical nurses, they're licensed to the Board of Nursing, $75 every 2 years. There are about 100 of these people, so that would be about $7,500. And again, maybe not all at once, you know, like Ms. Butts and I were talking about how maybe some 1 year and some the next year. But if we had to pay all 100, it'd be $7,500. Number 4, there's a mistake here. We know that the CNAs are no longer part of what we're doing. So this actually should be for the registered nurses. And I don't have all those job codes, but we did determine there's about 95 of them. Their license to the nursing board is $120. So for 95 people at $120 every 2 years, that'd be about $11,400.
So hold on a quick.
Yeah, so number 4 would
Page number
be
4 to RN.
RN for
and
their
change
license.
the amount.
Yes, 120 every 2 years. Sorry for that.
And
that's a-
95. you said?
120, and
Oh,
there are
100.
95 employees,
95.
so about $11,400.
Got it.
Then, this next one would, you know, it's difficult to cost us so now, but Child Development Associate credentials, those are the CDA, is that what that is? Credential, these are courses that are not offered through HCPS to fulfill the 15-hour literacy requirement and BPK standards, but offered by the Department of Children and Families. So it would be specific for those courses, and it's something that they can't get here, that they could get their course cost reimbursed. And I don't actually know how much that typically is, but so that would just be, and then there's the language there. Now, what we're also proposing here is some advanced degree or advanced education supplements. So first, our proposal here for college credit hour differential. So if an employee has, and again, this should all be verified, and there's a little asterisk there later to kind of define what that means. 30 to 59 semester hours would add 40 cents per hour to the employee's pay. If they have 60 to 89 semester hours, they would get 70 cents per hour. And if they have 90 or more semester hours, 75 cents per hour more. And again, this would all have to be documented. And then we also wanted to propose advanced degree supplements for the associate, bachelor's, master's, specialist, or doctorate degree, and mirroring the language of the instructional contract at all those different amounts. 500 for associate, 1,000 for bachelor's, 2,000 masters, 4,000 specialists, 8,000 or 6,000, sorry, doctorate. So the language there, you know, effective July 1, 2025, employees will be eligible for the advanced degree supplement regardless of employment area. To be eligible for advanced degree supplement, their official transcripts must be on file in the Division of Human Resources. This supplemental pay will be retroactive to the beginning of the fiscal year. It kind of goes on to the next page, I think. Here.
So these aren't our current amount. This is what you're going to be asking for instructional. Okay.
No, well,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, that's what I'm assuming,
yeah.
right? Because right now it's 1, 2, and 3.
Yes. So that's what we're going for. So beginning of the fiscal year,
Foreshadow.
the transactions have been received or to the date the degree was awarded, whichever is later. So that's definitely nearing them. And then the little asterisk for the college credit hour differential.
Mhm.
College credit hour differentials will not apply when the credit hours are required for employment. So if it's something that I already have to have these hours, part of my requirement, it's not extra, but if it's like, hey, I've got all these extra course hours, and I get that differential.
Yeah.
All right, next. We'll give you both of these. So now we've got our compensation agreement and a proposed salary schedule. Yep. Should be one of each, front and back on. All right. There you go. Kelly. Alright. All right, so our compensation agreement would be made on this 9th day of July, 2025. We can just sign off on it, good to go. Between the Hillsborough County Public Schools, HCPS for the district, and the Hillsborough Classroom Teachers Association, HCTS union, representing both educational support professional and bargaining units, herein collectively referred to as parties. So the parties mutually agreed to the following: effective July 1, 2025, the educational support professional salary schedule agreed upon shall be updated and included in Appendix C. So just, I know it's, everybody can like do all the math in their head. What's happened to the salary schedule is that what we've done is we've applied a 2% increase across the scale. So every cell has just been updated by 2%. Which you all can check my math, and I can send this to you. Yes, please. In Excel. So that's just, so the basis of the updated salary schedule is a 2% increase applied to the scale. On top of that, effective July 1, 2025, eligible employees and ESP bargaining units shall advance one level, which is approximately 2%. It varies. I know some of our steps are 1.5.
Actually, real quick, sorry, I'm in the, so every single cell on our current salary schedule, you're saying is 2%.
Yes, so it's a 2%.
You didn't change the, like, for example,
No, we did
right
not.
now, grade 15, step 1 is $15.
$15.30.
I just want to make sure that
We played around with trying to we know that the salary schedule got wrecked thanks to legislation, mandating a minimum wage, which, that first year having to implement that created compression. The scale used to be every step was 2% and blah, and if you applied, all the grades were equal. And now we have kind of that strange split where when I say the top half of the scale, I mean like the lower grades and lower levels have the 1.5%. Then the rest of the scale, I think somewhere varies, 2 to 2.5, I think. And then the grades are also variable. So we looked at that, but we didn't do that. We just
so that keep that
at scale, just applying 2%.
understood.
And I'll send it to you and you can check it. And I have I do the here's the one that shows the percentage.
Yeah. This is where Becky's locked in. Listen.
Yes.
Okay.
So exciting. I'll even send you my scattergram. That's a fun.
That would be great. That would be very helpful.
So 2% of the scale, and then one step or one level, which is approximately 2% when you take everybody into account on their respective pay grade. On the educational support professional salary schedule, eligible employees must have worked half the year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for 24-25 school year. So this is all mirroring our language before that. We've got a salary schedule, one step. What I kind of came up with is based on this base pay increase of 2% of the scale and a step comes to about an average of 4% for all employees. The average is about just under $1. It's like 0.9966 cents because we do 4 decimal points. But again, that's variable because of those difference in the steps. Some folks are getting, their step is a little more than the other. So I just wanted to be clear that that's what our goal is, about 4% on average for everyone. If someone's getting less than 4, it's like 3.98. That's what it is. Okay. All right. On 2025, eligible ESP employees at the top of their respective pay grade, that's level 24. It's only about 91 of them. who did not receive a level increase. So those would be people that are on 24 now, and if the step increase is applied, they don't move. That they shall receive an FRS eligible one-time top level payment of $3,000. I had costed this out over here for 91 employees about $273,000. Eligible employees must have worked half a year plus a day and have an effective evaluation for the 24-25 school year.
And that's in addition to the 2% that they have.
Yeah.
Right. Salary schedule.
Right. So if they didn't get step, they would not be getting 4%. And, you know, the years past, we've given them $2,000. So just trying to, you know, get them to that same place of having a fair or equitable increase. So number 4, all ESP employees shall receive a $2,500 one-time additional base pay supplement for the 25-26 school year. This is mirroring what we did last year, where one payment of $1,500 shall be paid in the first paycheck of the first semester, which is August 8th, 2025. And one payment of $1,000 shall be paid in the first paycheck of the second semester, which is January 9th, 2025. Should any pay date have to change, HCT and HCPS will reconvene to determine the dates of payment. And this payment is a supplement to employees' base pay. To be eligible, an employee must be a current active employee at the time of payment. Now we know that we did this last year. I'm basing this on when I pulled this data, it was probably like end of June. We were basing this off of 3,660 employees. That one-time supplement would come to a cost of just over $9 million, $9,150,000. Effective, number 5, effective July 1, registered nurses shall also be regraded one pay grade on the salary schedule from pay grade 34 to 35, which is the regrade is at that level is 5%. The approximate cost of the nurses, well, I'll do both nurses because we got registered, and then also number 6, effective July 1, and this should be 2025. All right, all of those should be 25. Licensed practical nurses shall also be regraded one pay grade on the salary schedule from pay grade 26 to 27. The combined approximate cost for the nurse regrading, I have at $389,668. And that's with, they're getting their step, you know, everybody's getting their step, but they would also be regraded. Number 7, effective July 1, 2025, parent liaisons, specific job code is 56101, shall be regraded one pay grade of the salary schedule from pay grade 15 to 16. And these parent liaisons, I have to look at my notes for how many there are. That would be an approximate cost of $46,259. I do have this on the spreadsheet over here. Number 8, effective July 1, 2025, behavioral technician, paraprofessional 3, job code 50160 shall be regraded one pay grade on the salary schedule from pay grade 20 to 21. And these are the behavioral technician. The amount of folks there would be a cost of about $25,399.
And when you're giving me these costs that you estimated, and I know, you know, we'll look at it too, are you doing with fringe or without fringe?
Well, right now, what I'm quoting now is without, but
Okay.
on the document here, once we get the total, then I am applying fringe.
She says right here.
Yeah, I'm kind of going.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm right when the numbers I'm quoting right now are just the base cost before, but then what
Okay.
I've done is try to say, okay, the cost of the step, the cost of the 2%, all these regrades, what is that total amount, and then applying fringe. Got it. And then there's another spot over here for those one-time payments, and then I left some of the supplements that are harder to account for on them.
Okay.
All right, I think I'm on number 9.
You are.
Effective July 1, 2025, Head Start aides, job code 56404 shall also be regraded one pay grade on the salary schedule from 16 to 16. Oh, no,
15.
it's 15 to 16, sorry. No, yes, keep them on 16. And the Head Start aides, that would be approximate cost of $109,157.
They 16.
They're,
It should be
they're
15
15 to
yeah,
16.
15, 16.
Sorry.
No, that's
I did a lot of copy paste late last night, so that's why
You do
there's
great work.
using our format, trying to keep our format. All right, number 10, effective July 1, 2025, Office Network Computer Specialist, job code 50561, shall also be regraded by one pay grade on the salary schedule from pay grade 26 to 27. And those folks, that would cost before fringe, $14,886. These are estimates. I know.
Sure. No, absolutely.
And then 11, effective July 1, 2025, assistant teacher AA level Head Start. job code 56400. Now, we can look at this one because in that job code 56400, there are multiple titles under the teacher, assistant teacher. We were focusing on the Head Start.
So
But
if you're looking to, yeah, that can be where they would be separated out as a different job
Right.
description.
Yeah.
So, okay.
they would also be regraded one pay grade on the salary schedule from pay grade 20 to 21, and we estimate that at 15,873.
Okay.
Then of course, the board will agree to pay the full cost of employee health insurance premiums for a designated health plan offered by the board for, this should be instructional support employees
Mhm.
in accordance with 24.1.1. I don't know if that's the right contract language now, but we can look at that.
Okay.
And then 13, the board will pay the cost of fingerprint monitoring fees for instructional support unit employees in accordance with 26 point. I gotta look at those contracts. And like, if I copy that from the instructional agreement, I can.
Might be the
So-
one. Okay, that's fine.
So that is, that's the totality of the compensation agreement. So on your spreadsheet document, again, I will send this to you. The approximate cost of the one level step movement, we estimate at 1,775,382.
Without fringe?
That's before fringe, correct? Approximate cost of the 2% improvement to the salary schedule, 2,124,992. And I quoted you all of those regrading. That comes to a total cost before fringe of 4,501,660. And then our fringe factor, we came up with 5,478,116 and 87 cents.
What did you use to?
So Tracy sent us over
Yeah.
her calculator.
Mhm.
So for the basis of calculating salary increases, now we understand benefits is part of that, but that's also part of piece of negotiation. That we calculated this, I believe, on only using the retirement, the FICA, the Medicare, the life, and the workers' comp. So I think that's 21.69.
Yeah, it's
That's the factor we use for the basis of pay alone, because again, we're salary and benefits. We did not include the health insurance on this factor. We understand that there's cost of the board on that, but in calculating this factor for the purposes of salary, we only included retirement, FICA, Medicare, life, and workers' comp.
Okay.
So then again, over here to the right, we've got kind of the one-time payments and supplements, and we did try to estimate the cost of the 3,000 for the approximate 91 employees at 273,000. The $2,500 one-time payment for approximately 3,660 employees at 9,150,000 for a total non-recurring cost of 9,423,000. And so that a total appropriate cost is adding those two boxes together, the 5.4 and the 9.4, to approximate total proposal cost of $14,901,017. Now, we know that there are some unknown, we know that that's the conservative approach, right? Because some of those, like the advanced degree supplements, the bilingual interpretation, translation services, we did do some kind of basic estimates for some of those little certificate renewals. So you can figure those out pretty easily. The only one would be the reimbursement for the course, and then the Renaissance differential. We didn't include that because we would just be continuing what we would do. So we tried to pull it all together, but we know there may be some other things that you will help us identify, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely.
And I will send you my big gigantic Excel sheet.
That'd be amazing.
And if you need any help understanding it, let me know. But it has the base salary schedule, the original. It shows the breakdown of how that salary schedule breaks out. Then it applies the 2% and shows what that would look like for an employee. It calculates if an employee was on, let's say they were on step one, making $15 an hour, and they moved to the new step two of $15.6443, what percentage that would be. Then there's a tab that has the entire scattergram of what the current cost is now, where everyone's placed based on our data. Then there's a tab that shows the new scale with everybody moving. And then I believe there's a tab that shows the nurse regrading costs. But what I did to determine the regrading of all these other folks was we took the total, like the folks we have on file, totaled their salaries and applied 5%. That's kind of, because that would be the regrading.
Okay. And we'll cost it out. I mean, our initial cost out just for a step on the current
Mhm.
salary schedule is approximately 2 point, hold on. I want to give you the wrong number.
Okay.
I have it right here, just a second.
See if I can put them on that too.
We have that one step for all employees for ESP
Mhm.
with including fringe is approximately 2.6 million. And that is on our current salary schedule, but we will recost that and, you know, obviously.
Yeah, and
cost-
again, we did it based on a data pool. Those, it was actually, I said 3,650, it was like 3,658 based on the data at the time.
Close.
Um,
Well, and we're in a position where we can do the actual fringe rate for each individual employee. So we
Right,
have an
yeah.
advantage with that, with being, and it's definitely much higher than 20-some%. It's in, you know, closer to 40%. So that's where some of that difference might be.
Yeah.
But that's why we work together with the cost outs.
Yeah, it's just a difference of fringe, because I think if I apply 40% to our base of 1.775, it came out to 2.48. So that's pretty close, and that's probably just because,
But that's on the new salaries, on the new schedule.
well, that would just be, just a step. Because first we
Thank you.
calculate the
Okay,
step
got it.
alone,
That makes sense.
and you could do it either way, right? We
Okay,
could
no,
say,
that
all
makes
right,
sense.
here's the new scale, we apply, I think it all comes
Okay.
out the wash.
Got it.
But yeah, the step alone on the current scale, 2.775, and then depending on your benefit
Right.
factor, and
Okay.
it can, of course, I explained the way we're calculating fringe.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So,
That was really helpful.
yeah, all
Okay,
right, well, I will
good.
send you this spreadsheet.
You can send that all to us and then,
If you want, I can even send you the working document.
you know, I love that. All right, and then if we can caucus.
Oh, I have one more thing.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
This one, I know you'll agree to it, right?
Yeah.
This is an MOU. Hopefully to start a conversation and start some work. All right, so this is, comes out of an effort to kind of incentivize good attendance and allow employees to use access to assist with the purchase of a primary residence. So the agreement here is that Hillsborough County Public Schools and HCTA agree to establish a new home purchase assistant option as permitted by law. The parties share a common goal to establish a new benefit, which allows employees to cash in accumulated sick, personal, and/or annual leave days to assist with the down payment on a primary residence. In order to obtain statutory authorization for this new benefit, the superintendent will recommend recurring statutory flexibility to be included in the board's 25-26. I wasn't sure because we just finished, so it would actually be 26, I guess. Legislative program, whatever the upcoming is each year. Upon changes to expand the provision of Florida Statute 10-1261 to permit employees to cash in accumulated and unused days for the purpose of purchasing a home, HCTA and HEPS agreed to immediately negotiate the implementation guidelines. We put a sunset date on this as 2027 because we figured it would give, depending on the legislative program year, the parties will meet at a mutually agreeable time to negotiate any future changes to Florida statutes, needs for extensions or updates to this agreement. So the goal here is, you know, and Regina kind of brought this to me, and I think the goal is to try to get to a point where maybe we can do this. So it's not saying that we're locked in, this is what we're gonna do, but that we are committed to trying to do something like this. And if the statutes allow us, that we can, and that the agreement is just that the superintendent would recommend this as a recurring, you know, something to be in the legislative program. So we just ask that you consider that and look at this as a way that employees that already have this accumulated time, is there a way that they could just cash it out to be used towards it?
All right.
And that's it. All right, so we're
Okay.
at 10:37.
Yeah.
And you can let us know what you want to do, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, I need to speak with the team.
Yeah.
You've given us a lot
I know.
today, which is great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I'm super thankful that you have given your initial ask.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were gonna be there today, so that was.
I didn't know if I was either, but we got it.
So super thankful for that. Obviously, that gives us a lot more to talk about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're gonna be able to, let us
Okay.
caucus and then I'll let you know what our next steps are.
Okay, so you want to say like 15, 20 minutes to talk and then let us know,
Yep.
okay, we need to extend or
Correct.
whatever.
That
Okay.
would be perfect.
All right,
Thank
and then
you.
I just ask that if we don't continue, we come back and we want to set some dates. Our school community professional learning committee
Yes.
and talk a little bit about that, the review for the job reclassification.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
don't leave before we do that.
We
Not
will
that you
not
necessarily
leave.
need everybody for that. but
Correct.
I am ready, but where's my video? There we go. All right, so just an update that the school boards team came back. They're gonna need more time, because we just went through probably 50 pages of proposals along with the comprehensive compensation package. So they did come back. Our next session for the ESP contract and compensation will be on July 23rd at 9 a.m. Location will be determined because our building here will be for our teacher free market and all of our back to school prep. So the location will be coming soon. And just as an update, our instructional negotiations will continue at 1 p.m. on July 15th. We did talk about some of the tentative dates we wanted to set for the school community professional learning committee and a reclassification meeting on some job descriptions. Those are going to require some more focused people on those committees. So we will be sending kind of a formal request to commence that committee and have those meetings. So those will not be official on the bargaining agenda meetings, but related. So that's the update for now. And we will send an update out to members through our newsletter, but we will see you either on the 15th for instructional negotiations or the 23rd for ESPs. Thank you.